What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today we are going to be taking a look at Winter Eternal. We're going to be playing a session in Winter Eternal. This setting is for the Savage Worlds system, and I actually played Winter Eternal, the one-page micro setting version for Tricube Tales previously, and after I posted that video, the author of Winter Eternal was kind enough to send me all of the Winter Eternal materials. So first of all, thank you very much for that. I've been having a lot of fun reading through all of this stuff here. I've got my poor man's version printed out. But yeah, I really appreciate receiving this, and I look forward to playing more in this setting. It's a very intriguing setting of sort of a post, not exactly a post-apocalypse, because things have sort of been reestablished, but after a world-ending event, the new world that was born in its wake, an icy world, an eternal winter sort of world, if you will. But I don't actually have the Savage World system, which is what this setting is designed for. So I will be playing it slightly modified for the Rhapsode system, the solo role-playing system, so that we can go ahead and enjoy this setting, even though I don't have the Savage Worlds system on hand. Now, because I don't have Savage Worlds, I went ahead and chose for our characters some characters that are already established here in the book, since I don't have access to the various skills and hindrances and edges that exist in the Savage World setting. I figured by going with some predefined characters, I can see what they've got and then go ahead and go from there. So I went with Zed Cobb, the Luckless Mercenary, and his partner is going to be Annia Forgespark, an artificer in Wallside. And these two characters I've sort of adapted based on their skills and hindrances and edges. I've adapted them into the Rhapsode system here. But what I'm going to have them do, the sort of adventure that they're going to go on, is they're going to explore in search of some Sunshard Craters in this wintry post-apocalyptic world. The sun had essentially died out and left the world an icy wasteland, and at a certain point they started discovering these sun shards that could create heat and light and such. And so they're very sought after, and they often come in these craters where they collided with the Earth. And so our two characters, Zed and Annia, are going to be going on a adventure out into the wilderness to scout out what has been rumored to be a location where there could be a nice sunshard resource area, a mine, or somewhere that a sunshard mine could be set up. But it's their job to go and look for it, and Zed is sort of like the muscle and protection and guide, and Annia is the artificer who knows how to work with sunshards and knows about sunshard, and will therefore be the one sort of analyzing once they get to this location, once they can find it, whether it's really a value, and gathering some specimens to bring back to Wallside. So they're going to start in Wallside over here. I have the map. Pardon my screw up on the printing. This is supposed to be split on a page, but here, this is what we have. So Wallside is over here on the east side of the lands. Let me see if I can remember the name. I know I'm not going to remember it. Elarak. There it is. All right, so over here on the east side of Elarak, we have Wallside, which is a famous sort of artificer city. And so what they're going to do is they're going to travel through an archway, which is sort of like a path, a protected path through the wintry wasteland, down to a town called Lardner. And then they're going to cut out to the east/southeast into the wilderness down here in search of the specific crater that hints have suggested may be out there. So it's an exploration party. They're both being paid by a wealthy individual who runs a sunshard mining operation, and so we're sort of like the scouting party. The second wave of scouting parties after some of the rumors have come back about locations that could potentially hold a sunshard. And so we're going to be heading out there into the wilderness eventually, but first out into the Archways to hopefully find and recover this some sunshard and find a location and bring it back and collect our reward. And so yeah, let's go ahead and look at our characters a little bit here, and before we go ahead and set off on our journey. So Zed Cobb is a mercenary for hire. Let's go ahead to the detailed description here. It says Zed is the go-to guy when you want a job done. So he's a very loyal guy. He has a very strict code of honor. He's going to see the job through. He just doesn't want any shenanigans along the way. He wants everyone to keep their side of the deal. And some of his strengths and weaknesses, he's very good at things like fighting and intimidation, and he's even good at like survival and streetwise and riding, and even persuasion he's pretty good at. He's got a wide array of skills. And so what I went ahead and did was give him a level 3 in Rhapsode's Might skill set and a level 2 in Rhapsode's Precision skill set. And Might, if we remember, includes things like melee, intimidation, strength, courage, and endurance. And Precision includes ranged, persuasion, dexterity, wit, and resistance. So I figure his sort of abilities fit kind of nicely into Might and Precision. Of course, level 1 at Cerebral and level 1 at Emotional. Now, as far as his assets, and I went ahead and called them hindrances in this case, he is brawny, and that is going to give boons to strength and endurance tests. Nerves of Steel gives boons to willpower and courage tests. Bad luck, I went ahead and defined this as such. Anytime a challenge is drawn of a page difficulty, so easy, it's always automatically actually an average difficulty. So he cannot have an easy difficulty challenge. They're always going to be bumped up 1 from easy to average. Now, average doesn't get bumped up automatically to hard or hard to extreme. It's just that the easy difficulty challenges don't ever happen for him. He has a longsword, which is going to give boons in melee, and he has a dog companion, which is going to give a boon in perception, which is traditionally a cerebral type skill. It's underneath the cerebral skill set. Other stuff he has that is going to be useful for the fiction is a code of honor, and he is loyal. Now, our other hero here, Annia Forgespark, is a young but very promising artificer living in Wallside, and for her, she is very much so sort of agility and intellect and a little bit of spirit and sort of vigor, and so sort of just a strong-willed individual. So I went ahead, or a strong-willed, intelligent, sort of dexterous sort of individual, because of her weird science and gadgeteer and Mr. Fix-It kind of abilities listed here. I went ahead and gave her a 2 in Precision and a 3 in Cerebral. And if you'll remember, Precision, again, is ranged, persuasion, dexterity, wit, and resistance. I figure those can fit pretty nicely in with things like her vigor, as listed here, and her smarts, or rather her agility. And then the Cerebral, again, is mechanical skills like using machines, so the gadgeteer edge in particular fits in here. Deception, perception, intellect, and preparation. Now, she does have, like I said, Gadgeteer and Mr. Fix-It, so I went ahead and had those part of her assets here. She has Gadgeteer, which gives her a boost in mechanical skill checks. Mr. Fix-It gives her a boost in preparation skill checks, rather. Stubborn, she is stubborn, so I gave her a negative on wisdom, so she has a negative boon on wisdom, or I guess a bane. She has the arcane ability Stun, which I gave her a boon to ranged attacks, or ranged skill checks. And for the fiction, she also has an arcane background, weird science, and Sunshard knowledge. Of course, that's one of the main reasons she's along on this adventure. So those are our heroes. And what I'm going to do, like I said, we're going to be starting out our adventure just pretty much just leaving town. We're leaving, let's see if I can find the map here. We're leaving from Wallside. So we're not going to be doing much urban adventuring. We pretty much just set out straight from Wallside into the Archways. So our adventure is going to begin sort of in that bridge between Wallside and the Archway that leads to the south towards Lardner. And so I don't know how much is going to be contained within this session. Probably not much more than just traveling the Archway south towards Lardner. But we'll see. You know, you never know how fast or how slow things are going to move. So we'll go ahead and see how things unfold after we set out. So I'm going to go ahead and get the play space here ready. That way we can get started and have some fun in the Winter Eternal setting. Heck yeah. All right, let's do this. All right, so I've got everything set up. I'm using the Alcento deck for this particular excursion. I'll have a link in the description below. But just look at these cards. Oh, they're so sexy. They're black all the way through. All the sides are black. And really, really cool imagery on them. It's going to be real fun to play with these. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Here we have Wallside. So this is a nice image of it from the top here and from the side. It's literally kind of built into the walls of this crevice. And our characters have already gathered all their supplies. They already have everything they need, winter clothes. This is just after a a blizzard has come through, a super blizzard. So this frozen wasteland, it's like 4 to 8 weeks, a super blizzard rolls through and lasts. I think it lasts for about a week, if I remember correctly. And it's not a time to be traveling in the cities. Everybody kind of goes in towards where everything's warmest. In this particular world, that's where the wizards are sort of creating a simulated sunlight day-night cycle. And so it's actually quite verdant and green and healthy and nice near the centers of most cities. And so people kind of congregate in these locations when there's a super blizzard coming through. But just a nasty thing, you do not want to go traveling during a super blizzard. And so they've waited for this last super blizzard to subside and are heading out straight away. That way they can hopefully complete their expedition before the next super blizzard arrives, or at least be somewhere like Lardner before the next super blizzard comes through, because they do come through quite regularly. So it's right after the end of a super blizzard. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of hustle and bustle. People are starting, people who are just here as a step in their journey, traders, that sort of thing, are all sort of gathering and getting into this. There's a lift, a steam lift that takes you up to the Archway here, atop the cities in this sort of crevice. And so it's very busy. It smells of sulfur. It's crowded. There's, like I said, lots of people taking these steam lifts up to move on to the next thing now that the storm has subsided. And so that is where our characters are going to begin their journey, is on this lift heading up towards the Archway. And like I said, they've got all their supplies, they've got everything, they're good to go. And yeah, let's go ahead and draw our first scene to have this game master tell us a little bit about what's going on this elevator, what transpires on this elevator. So we'll go ahead and draw a scene card here. The Magician. All right, so this particular card, if we take a look at our spark chart here, really sort of represents manifestation of skill, or plans aligning perfectly, a hidden talent emergence. If we look at the card in particular, it's a person with all of the stuff. All the different suits are here on their table. They've got a sort of magic wand in their hand, and they are ready to go. And so I think for us, this actually represents basically what we've already described. We're heading up this lift, and we have everything together, and everything is looking good. This is how our journey should be starting, right? We're heading up the lift. We have all of our supplies. We're good to go. Now let's go ahead and see what challenges might arise inside of this elevator. I don't see a reason to make a choice challenge at this point, so we'll go ahead and let the game master decide here. And so we got the Page of Cups. Now, if we remember here, the cups is the emotional skill set representing willpower, inspiration / seduction, intuition, wisdom, and resilience. What I'm thinking is happening here is Annia Forgespark, this is actually her first time leaving the city of Wallside, or leaving from a city in general. She's never been in the Archways, she's never been in the wilderness. And so as they're going up in this steam elevator, this steam-powered lift, and it's noisy and shaking and just a very intense, all the senses are sort of being berated from the vibrations and the sound, and it's crowded and it smells like sulfur, and it's just a very stressful situation as they're going up in this lift, and she's starting to sort of be faced with the fear of the unknown that she's about to emerge into. Everyone in this world knows how dangerous it is outside of the cities. So these are perfectly valid and justified fears. So what I'm thinking is happening is there's going to be either a willpower and resilience check on the side of Annia, or we could even have Zed do an inspiration check. Now, at this point, they both have level 1 in the emotional skill set, so that's kind of a wash. However, it is a page or easy difficulty. Now, because of Zed's bad luck, this would convert into a night difficulty, so an average difficulty. And so I think it's just going to be better for Annia, who's not saying anything, but internally having this struggle. She's going to do a check against willpower and resilience to try and overcome this perfectly justified fear. The wilderness in this world is a horrifying place, as I'm sure we will see. But in the meantime, let's see if she can't overcome this first challenge to her psyche in this case. And let's go ahead and start drawing. So she gets to draw 1 card for her skill level. Again, she is level 1, and it's easy difficulty, so that's an additional 3 cards. So we get to draw 4 cards, and we're hoping to get a cups. We draw a 9 of Wands, and we draw a 4 of Cups on the second card. So we don't even need to continue drawing. And we're going to go ahead and say we don't need to use this card for inspiration either, I don't think. I think that she is just going to find the strength within herself. And I think if she had failed this check, she would have had some hindrance added to her character to exemplify the sort of fear and how it would not be a useful thing to be dealing with during this adventure. So I don't think she would just automatically say, let me off here, but rather that she would just have a fear that was hindering her in future skill checks somehow. But we don't have to worry about that, because indeed Annia was able to overcome this initial fear. The steam lift reaches the top with a clang and stops. Everybody shakes and jostles to the side, and then the gates open and people start flooding out into the sort of entry area to the archways to exit the city. And if I remember correctly, Wallside only has one archway, and it's leading out of the south. So we're all kind of like taking this same archway. And so now we are done with our first scene. So we'll get these cards shuffled back in, and let's see what our next scene brings as we enter the archway for the first time. Ooh, great. We drew the devil. Okay. The devil. Lots of fire on this card, which is generally a good thing in this icy world. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the sparks for the devil card. Here we have temptation and bondage, or reversed liberation and awareness. Chain, sinister, and entice. A hidden desire becomes empowering. A harmful pattern is recognized and broken. Addiction tightens its grip, or a manipulator gains influence. Now, obviously this card looks very negative, and it has some meanings that vibe very negative. But I'm actually thinking it's not as negative as it seems, though it is sort of a scam. And here's what I'm thinking. We've just emerged, Zed and Annia have just emerged from this elevator. Everybody is sort of like scattering out of the elevator to prepare themselves for the trip down the archways. And there are these certain individuals who have set up a sort of, scam is maybe too strong of a word, but they have this service where they provide, it's sort of like a train of carriages to sort of ferry people through the archways in a slightly more comfortable, less unsafe environment, and sort of like a safety in numbers kind of situation too, if anything should transpire. But they do cost a pretty penny. So I'm thinking that what we're going to do, first of all, is this scene is going to be sort of the, like I said, there are our entry into the archways, and we are presented with these, again, these trains of carriages that will offer us for a price safe passage through the archways. And we'll see first, I think we're going to do an actual choice challenge to try and use a persuasion to, or maybe even wit. Again, so a precision skill check of persuasion or wit to try to reduce the cost of this service. And if we take a look here, let's just get our footing as far as costs go. And there is a services section here. I think it's in the gear section. Here's a section. Okay, so just kind of, okay, so here we have travel. It's a caravan, 3 gold points per day. And caravan space, 1 gold point per day. So I think it would be more in the space department. And I think that these individuals who are offering this are going to be offering it for 2 gold points a day per passenger. So it would be 4 gold, or gold pieces. I forget what GP stands for. We'll say gold pieces. 4 gold pieces per day for our journey along this archway. So we're going to do a persuasion attempt / wit to try and haggle our way down to a more affordable rate. And so let's go ahead and make that skill check. It is going to be a Wands challenge. And so let's get a difficulty here. We have Page. Okay, Page of Wands. So that's easy difficulty. Go ahead and set these together. And we're going to do a Wands skill check. Now, both of them have level 2 in Wands. Again, Zed, however, cannot do a Page difficulty or easy difficulty. It automatically gets bumped to a Knight. So this is, I think, again, where Annia, who runs a shop and is used to haggling and persuading in her shop environment, is going to be using those skills here to try and get the price down from 2 gold points a day to 1 gold point a day per individual. And let's go ahead and see if we can't succeed. So she has level 2, and then it is a Page difficulty. for 3 extra cards, so that's 5 total cards. Let's see if we can't get a wand. And our first card we draw is the 6 of Wands. And here, how fitting, we have a man on a horse riding down a road, and everybody's like, yeah, look at you. All right, so we were able to get the price reduced, and what I need to do is actually figure out how many days of travel this will be. All right, so we're looking at 50 miles, roughly, of distance in this archway from Wallside to Lardner. And I'm going to say a carriage in this environment. We're going to say that this carriage, this like train of carriages, this caravan rather, is going to be moving at, what do you guys think, 10 miles per hour? So it's like a 5-day journey? Or is that too fast? Yeah, for a caravan, let's say it goes 5 miles per hour. It's sort of a slow rolling caravan. And so it's going to take 10 days trip down to Lardner. Or thereabouts. Maybe like 7 miles per hour or something. So it takes like a little bit less, maybe like 8 days travel. So we'll say that. So we're looking at 8 days of travel. That's 8 gold pieces per individual, Zed and Annia. So that's 16 gold pieces. And I think we're going to go ahead and pay them up straight away. Although we'll see if, the journey, if we're going to actually be on the caravan for this whole journey. And how many gold pieces do we start with? Let's take a look here if it has any point. We start with 500 gold pieces, and we're going to say we spent a bunch on all of our supplies. Yeah, so going out into the wilderness, we're going to want to have ice suits. So let's see here. An ice suit is 1,000 gold points. We're going to say that the individual that funded this expedition has provided us with extra gold to make sure we have the proper equipment. So we've got ice suits for going out into the wilderness and all the other required materials for an ice suit to function. And we've got winter clothing, which is what we're wearing right now. So our ice suits, quite heavy, are 50 pounds each, it looks like, are going to be in a sort of sled or something that we are pulling along. And so we'll say that we have, after everything's said and done, we'll say each of our characters have 100 gold. So we'll just pool that to say 200. 200 gold. But then we go ahead and spend 18 of it. So we're looking at 182. And so that's our updated gold points. And then, again, we're going to just go ahead and say that we have all the equipment we need for traveling in the wilderness inside of our cart that we are pulling along with us. And so now let's go ahead and see what the next challenge is in this scene. The Chevalier of Wands. Now, Chevalier in this deck is the Knight. And so this is an average difficulty challenge in, again, the Wands skill set. So we're looking at ranged, persuasion, dexterity, wit, and resistance. Resistance. Okay, so I think I know what this is. So we are in the Archways, and we do have to do regular checks against the cold. And if we take a look, let's see, where was that? Okay, so this is how we handle the cold when we are in the Archways. If we have winter clothing, we need to do a vigor check every 4 hours. And vigor, I'm going to say, it could translate into 2 things in our system. The first is obviously endurance. There's also resistance, as well as potentially resilience, though that is more of a psychological thing. So we're going to say either a resistance or endurance check, and in this case it is a precision wands skill check. So we're going to have both of our characters have to succeed at this average precision wands challenge. So let's go ahead and each of them have level 2, and it's average difficulty, so that's an additional 2, so they get to do 4 cards each. So let's try for Zed first to resist the cold. We need to get a wand. We got discs, 9 of discs, 6 of cups, and last card is the 9 of wands. All right, so fittingly we have an individual here with his shield up resisting some arrows, and that's going to be our hero Zed resisting the cold. So nothing negative happens for this guy. Let's get this shuffled up, and we can go ahead and do a check for Annia. And so the way that I'm going to handle this is if either of them fails, this skill check will fail. And that's how we're going to approach this. And that will be a setback of some sort for us. We'll see how things go. Now, Annia gets to draw 4 cards as well. She draws the 7 of Swords, the 3 of Cups, the 2 of Swords. All right, we're on to our last card. And the 5 of Discs. All right, so let's see. Which card do we want to use here? I'm going to go with the Discs as our fail card. It has this wounded individual here on an island and this somewhat destitute-looking lady next to him. And so that sort of represents to me the effects of the cold that are setting in for dear Annia, who has never, ever left the city of Wallside. So it does make sense that her resistance to this sort of thing would be less than Zed. So let's get these flipped real quick. Let's see. It was an average difficulty. Let's call it something like cold. Or we'll call it the chills. Chills. She's got the chills, which is going to add negative card draws to all. Yeah. It's a level 1 Bane to all skill checks. So pretty bad, but not the end of the world. All right. And we are still here in our first scene, traveling along the archways in this caravan. And what happens but a Knight of Discs challenge. If we take a look, the discs or pentacles in this deck, the pentacles are called discs. Cerebral represents mechanical, as in using devices, deception, perception, intellect, and preparation. So what I think this is actually going to be a perception check. And, oh, we forgot we do have our dog with us. Let's say they didn't charge us extra for the dog. That was part of the deal that Annia struck with the Caravaneers. All right, so we have, I'm thinking a perception check. There is something that we can either perceive or not. And if we are able to perceive it, then we'll have some sort of boon whenever the challenge for it arises, or we can possibly avoid it altogether. Or if we do not observe it, we'll have a bane against this next challenge, whatever it is that we're going to miss observing. And so let's go ahead and do a knight's level, so average perception check / intellect to make sure that we can see something. And we don't know what yet, but we do get an extra perception for our dog, who would hopefully bark at any threat that might be looming. So we'll go ahead and do see if we do it with Annia. She is level 3 at Cerebral. However, she will be -1 because she has the chills. That would put her at 2. Which basically makes it equivalent to if Zed rolls it, because Zed is level 1. However, he does have the bonus from the dog companion. And I wonder if the dog companion can contribute to Annia as well. And we'll go ahead and say that. We'll go ahead and say that Annia is going to do the roll, and the dog companion, as part of this party, will also provide a boon for Annia's skill check in this instance. So essentially, the dog companion negates the chills effect. So we get to draw 2 cards for the difficulty, and 3 cards for the boon plus the cerebral skill minus the chills. So that's 5 cards. So we got to get a disc. All right, we draw the 5 of Cups, and our second card is the 9 of Discs. And fittingly, we have this woman standing here with a falcon, a bird with keen eyesight. And so now I'm wondering what in particular we spot. What is it that this dog starts barking at? What is it that we see? And because this actually completes this scene, we have 2 approaches to this. We can go ahead and just draw a spark card from our deck here to learn more about it. Or we can go ahead and let the next scene card sort of define what's going on. And in the context of having spotted something, when we draw this scene card, we will use that part of the fiction to interpret the meaning of the scene card. And I think that's the approach we're going to take. So let's get it drawn out here so that I can have it to look at and think over while we get these all put away. So we got our ace card. We need that back into our hand. And we got the page, the chevalier, and the chevalier. All right, so we drew the star. Wow. Fitting for a world where the sun gave out and everything was cast into a icy wilderness, icy wasteland. All right, I want a little bit of elaboration on this. And there's a lot of ways this can go. And I'm assuming we don't know yet whether the perception check saw something of benefit or saw something of that could harm us that we are now aware of. Let's go ahead and draw a spark card to get a little sense here. Oh God. So we have the 9 of swords, and here we have this woman in bed weeping, all these swords hanging on the wall, sort of pointing at her ominously, and this monkey climbing down the wall, poking her head. This gives me a sense of some sort of wild creature. So let's go ahead and take a look at, I think what we were seeing, we're spotting some sort of wilderness, some sort of rather wild creature encounter, something that has entered into the archways seeking warmth and potentially a meal. We've got frost giants, frost wolves, gear swarm, ghosts, a hummer, which is an insect, razorwing, which is a bird, shard muse, looks like a large dog. It's a mouse-like creature. Scrap golem, shard orc, stone golem, way crab, zombie. So we had the monkey poking her head on that spark card, which gives me vibes of potentially an orc creature, something that's more sentient. So there are orcs in this world, and a lot of them congregate around the red shards, which are they're shards kind of like the sun shards, and they leave a big crater, and then everything in the crater turns green and verdant, and stuff grows, but it also gets mutated. Red shards have sort of like a abominating, mutating quality to them, and so the orcs that survived the cataclysm that occurred sort of congregated in these craters where the red shard are, and so they're all kind of nasty and abominated and mutated and have extra limbs and that sort of thing. Maybe it's the case because we had a bunch of swords on that card pointing at her and the monkey poking her head. I think that we have here a raiding party of sorts of orcs that they sort of wait for after the storm when there's going to be a big rush of people coming through the archways, and so they are waiting there in ambush, and thankfully, thanks to our dog companion and Annia's keen eyesight, we are able to, Zed and Annia and the Caravan are able to spot this raiding party, and so we'll have an advantage going into this combat. All right, so let's go ahead and fight some shard orcs. Let's see what the first step of our encounter with some shard orcs represents. Of course, it's a Knight of Swords. So this is very clearly the orcs are charging us, and we have a might challenge for a sword, which is melee, intimidation, strength, courage, and endurance. So looks like we're going to be going into just straight into some combat against these orcs. And I suppose we should determine how many there are. And I'm going to draw a spark card, and we'll go off of the number value of the card. We've got the 8 of Cups. So we have 8 orcs attacking this caravan. And the caravan, we're going to assume, is probably 4. I was picturing it as sort of 4 carts sort of in a line going down the road. And so there's probably a few individuals inside of each cart. And so 8 orcs is a lot for just Zed and Annia to deal with, but it's not just Zed and Annia. It's the whole caravan and the guards that they have for each of the 4 carts. And so we'll say that maybe 2 of the orcs approach our caravan. They sort of have 2 orcs going to each caravan to wreak havoc. And so we're going to go ahead and have Zed do the fighting. thanks to Annia spotting them, we're going to say that we are able to have Zed. That's the boon that we have for this particular combat, thanks to spotting them ahead of time, is that Zed is able to take position so that Annia is not the one fighting these orcs straight away, but rather Zed is. All right, so Zed has a level 3 in might, and then he also has the longsword, which contributes to a melee check. And so we'll go ahead and draw 2 cards for the difficulty, 3 cards for his skill, and a 6th card for that longsword. Let's go ahead and start drawing. We want to get a sword. We got a 6 of cups here and the 8 of swords. So we are able to successfully complete this challenge. Zed takes a big swing at one of these orcs that's approaching and slashes the orc. So we will say that the way this combat is going to play out, we have this scene here where we are encountering these individuals that live in this verdant green area where everything is mutated, the orcs. And so since we're on our 3rd scene, we have to successfully complete 3 challenges. And we'll say that if we can complete those 3 challenges successfully, we've defeated both of the orcs. And we'll say that Zed was able to, again, slash that orc right across the chest as it charges at the caravan and defeats that orc. So we have that 1 orc left, but he's a little bit tougher. So let's go ahead and see what this next challenge is going to be. The King of Swords. Okay, yep. So the next orc is indeed much tougher. King is the extreme difficulty challenge. We've got this burly, monstrous orc. That previous one was a bit of a skirmisher. This one is a tank. And all right, so I think we're going to do an oracle check here to see who this orc attacks. And I think it's probably good odds that he goes after Zed, because Zed is the threat currently. So yeah, let's say good odds. Does the orc attack Zed? We drew a 9 of cups, so that's a yes. All right, so he is going after Zed, so it's going to be Zed who is performing this skill check. So again, he's going to get to draw 6 cards. Wait, sorry. He's going to get to draw 3 cards for his might level and 1 card for his longsword. So let's go ahead and draw 4 cards and hope to get a sword. We draw the 4 of wands, the 7 of wands, and thank goodness, the 7 of swords. All right, so he is able to slash at this gigantic, brawny beast of an orc, sort of bringing his sword back from after slashing that other orc. He's able to sort of swing that momentum back into this new orc that's approaching, but this new orc is beefy and is not killed by this strike. And so now, let's see what what the next challenge is. And we drew the Queen of Wands. Okay, so I'm thinking what this is. Take a look at precision here. Precision represents range, persuasion, dexterity, wit, and resistance. And if you'll remember, not only does Annia have level 2 in precision, she also has the, stun ability, which would give her an extra 1. However, she does have the chills still, but I think it's her turn to act. And we're going to see if Annia can't stun this orc. So she draws 1 card for the difficulty of Queen, 2 cards for her skill level, 1 card for using stun, and then -1 card for the chills. So she gets to draw 3 cards. We're hoping for a wand here. So we got, and the first card we draw is the 6 of wands. All right, so we have Zed taking a big slash out of this orc's chest, but he is just all muscle there and not really bothered by his thick skin, thick and nasty from the mutations of the red shard crater where he lives. Injures him but does not kill him. But then Annia comes in with her arcane ability and uses the stun ability on this orc, freezing him up, which gives Zed the chance to swing his sword and decapitate the orc, and his head flips and rolls into the snow, and then his body crumples over. And now we're going to look around and see, Zed and Annia are going to see what's going on with the rest of the caravan, and we'll see how things are going for everybody else. But this has been a pretty successful trip so far, all things considered. And actually, I'm going to go ahead, before I move on to the next scene, what I do want to do is we're going to let Annia try to use a resistance check against her chills. So resistance is going to be precision, which is wands. So we'll go ahead and force a wands check with a choice challenge of a difficulty of night. So she gets to draw 2 cards for the difficulty, 1 card for her ability. 2 cards for her ability, -1 for having the chills. So she gets to draw 3 cards, and hopefully we can get rid of the chills here. So we have the 2 of Swords, the 10 of Cups, and 1 more card here, the 7 of Wands. All right, perfect. So a precision skill check is successful. Annia is able to overcome the chills, and so we don't have to go into this next scene having that hindrance on her character now. All right, so let's go ahead and get these all packed away and draw our next scene. The Empress. Ooh, okay. Let's get a little bit more of a sense of what is transpiring. So we got the 6 of Wands, but on this card here we have a knight and all of these people surrounding him. And this gives me vibes of some of the other wagons in the caravan, or the other carts, are not doing so hot against these orcs. And so we have 4 carts in a row. Ours is now safe. That leaves 3 other carts and 6 other orcs for us to account for. And let's take a look at the spark information for the Empress. Growth and abundance, the opposite being smothering or stagnation. Some of the negative situations are excess drains resources, or a protector becomes controlling. So I'm looking specifically at smothering, and that's making me think that some of these other carts are not doing so hot. So let's ask, our cart is on the back. Let's ask if the next cart up from us has any orcs left. We'll say even odds. Discs, which would be pentacles, so yes, there are orcs at the next caravan up. So of the 4 caravans, our caravan, the last one in line, has handled its orcs. There are still orcs in the next caravan up from us, so we're just going to work our way up the caravans to try and handle this sort of invasion of orcs. So let's see what our next challenge is as these orcs are attacking. Ooh, a Queen of Cups. If we take a look, Cups, Queen is a hard, and Cups represent willpower, inspiration, intuition, wisdom, and resilience. Let's draw an inspiration card here. 8 of Swords. We've got an individual that's bound up and surrounded by swords in the ground, and it's a very gloomy, sort of foggy looking setting. This makes me think that perhaps Annia is again facing fear, right? Like when the first 2 orcs popped out and attacked where she was with Zed, she was able to pop off her stun spell to help and defeat those 2 orcs, but now it's like that was a matter of necessity. The orcs were right there in her face. Now she's being faced with having to actually go and approach orcs. And so this skill check is going to see whether she can overcome that. It's going to be willpower / resilience. You're going to see whether she can overcome that and go help the next caravan, or if it's just going to be Zed. So let's go ahead and do a skill check here. We have level 1, and it's a hard challenge, so that's 2 cards that Annia gets to draw in hopes of overcoming this horrifying situation that she's now facing as she turns to see the next caravan being overcome by orcs. And the first card we draw is indeed the 2 of Cups. So she does resolve herself, and as Zed leaps off of the cart, charges towards the next cart, Annia takes a breath and hoists herself off the cart as well and follows. So let's see what they encounter when they get to the next cart. King of Discs. So this is an extremely difficult discs challenge, which is pentacles, so cerebral. So there's use of a mechanical device, deception, perception, intellect, or preparation. So because this is an extreme difficulty, what I'm imagining here is that some sort of mechanical device, not necessarily one that uses energy, like that requires a sunshard, but just some sort of technical mechanical device, like a trap of some sort, or some sort of trapping mechanism, or entrapping, could even just be like a net. These orcs as they see, we'll say that they've sort of overrun this next cart, and they've slashed and beaten and defeated the individuals on that cart. It's a bloody mess. And now they're just facing Zed and Annia. They're up on this cart, so they have that height advantage. And I'm going to say that they have some sort of device. Maybe it's like a lasso or something. And they swing up this lasso. Let's say that it's like a sort of a barbed lasso. And they swing up this like chain barbed lasso. And they fling it at Annia and Zed. And it wraps around them. And it has its locking mechanism that pulls it tight as the orc is pulling against it. And now Annia is going to have to make a cerebral, mechanical, and intellect sort of skill check to see if she can't undo this mechanism. And thankfully, she does have level 3 in cerebral. And she does have the Gadgeteer boon, so she gets a +1 from that as well. So that's 4 cards. Because it's an extreme difficulty, no additional cards are going to be drawn. So we get to draw 4 cards to see if we can't get Annia and Zed loosed from this bondage. So we drew a 10 of cups and a 6 of discs. All right, so Annia is able to successfully, she's like, I know this device. She has also has high preparation levels, so she's got the right mechanism, like it's like a pair of pliers or something, and she takes it out and breaks the locking mechanism on this chain lasso device and is able to free Zed and herself. And let's see what happens next as we approach these orcs. All right, a Page of Wands. So I'm thinking, I'm going to ask the Oracle, is Annia already able to recast Stun? And let's go ahead and check. We're going to say even odds. No. Okay, so this is not going to be her using her stun ability for a ranged attack, which makes me think that it's more of a dodging attack. We'll say, because precision and wands, again, this is a wands challenge, represents ranged, persuasion, dexterity, wit, and resistance. And dexterity kind of, I imagine, as sort of like an agility sort of situation, as is somebody able to dodge, essentially, a ranged attack coming from these orcs. So they've just, the one orc up on the cart has used his, like, he's like a more, like a hunter type orc who had this like hunting lasso that he uses, and we were able to overcome that. And the other orc up there has some sort of ranged attack. Maybe it's like a sling, and he's about to fling a sharpened stone at Zed or Annia. And let's go ahead and even odds. Is he flinging it at Zed? No. Okay, so this is heading for Annia. Okay, so Annia is going to be the one dodging this attack from this orc. Which is just as well, because it is a page difficulty, which is easy, which Zed cannot actually do. It would be bumped up to a knight for Zed. So this actually increases our odds because they both have the same level of precision skill, wands skill. So she's going to get to draw 2 cards for the 2 cards for her skill and 3 cards for her difficulty. That makes it 5. Let's go ahead and see if she can't dodge this attack. And we drew a 5 of swords, a 9 of wands. All right, perfect. And again, fittingly, the card presents somebody with a shield held up and arrows being shot into it, but he's blocking them, so perfect. She is able to avoid this sling that this orc flings her way, this stone that this orc slings her way. And so we're doing really well here. Let's see if things go as well once we actually get to these orcs. I'm going to say we're pretty dang close to the orcs here. And I'm going to say we're just going to have Zed press his advantage and do a choice challenge of swords. So he's going to, they've sort of overcome, Zed and Annia have overcome the ranged attacks coming at them, and they've reached the cart, and we're going to have him do a melee attack with his longsword to try and defeat one of these orcs or both. And so let's go ahead and see if he can't do, this is a swords challenge, and the level is page. However, because of his bad luck, it is now a knight, so average difficulty. That's going to be 5 cards he gets to draw, plus the bonus for the longsword, making it 6. All right, can we get a sword in 6 cards? We've got the 6 of cups, the 2 of discs, the 10 of discs, the 3 of cups, and here we go, the 2 of swords. And here we have two individuals grappling or dueling and sword fighting with their swords as this lady just chills here and meditates. All right, so he's able to really focus his energy and meet these orcs in melee combat. Now, because we were able to succeed at all of these, we can move on to this next scene and see what it presents for us. Ooh, the fortitude, okay. We've got this woman with this lion, and this just represents to me the melee combat that we're about to engage in, that Zed is about to engage in with these big, burly orcs. Again, one's kind of like a hunter class. He's strong, but has some technical skill. And the other is a skirmisher with, limited melee skill, but good ranged skills. And so let's go ahead and just see what first challenge is presented to us. And we've got the Page of Cups again. Okay, so I'm going to get a little bit of a spark for this, because we have here a Cups challenge, which is emotional skill set, willpower, inspiration, intuition, wisdom, or resilience. This could be a willpower / resilience of Zed overcoming any fear that he has in himself. It's easy for him because he's a warrior. Or intuition / wisdom. This could be his the nature of this fight, the nature of melee combat isn't just technical skill. It's not just technical prowess. It's not just strength. There is an intuitive element to it, foreseeing your enemy's next move, understanding your enemy on an emotional level. So actually, you know what? I don't think I need to do a spark challenge. I think this is going to be basically Zed's entry into the combat and his assessment of the situation and the enemy and his own resilience and willpower going into battle. And so because he can't do a page challenge, he's got to bump it up to average. He gets to draw 2 cards for the difficulty and 1 card for the skill level of 1 in emotional. But because he's doing a willpower check and he has Nerves of Steel, he gets to draw an additional card. And so he gets to draw 4 cards, going for a Cups, and see if he can't use that warrior's intuition to approach this, and willpower to approach this battle. So we got a 6 of Wands, a 2 of Discs, a 9 of Wands, and a 3 of Swords. All right, so he does not take the advantage going into this battle. So we'll go ahead and use this 9 of Wands here to represent his failure. So Zed charges into battle against these 2 orcs, right? But he's focusing on the hunter rather than the skirmisher. And unfortunately, he does not, his intuitive chi battle sense is not in his favor at this point. And so he enters this combat at sort of a disadvantage. And so let's go ahead. We can have him. Let's leave our choice challenges for now and see what happens next. The Page of Discs, okay. So meanwhile, what Annia is dealing with is an easy cerebral challenge. Again, mechanical, deception, perception, intellect, and preparation. She's charging into battle right there alongside Zed. And let's see here. I'm going to get a spark card here to see what this represents. Okay, we drew the 9 of Swords, which of course represented the orc onslaught initially, right? If you'll remember. And so what I think this is we're doing another perception check to see the monkey that's coming to poke us in the head, figuratively speaking. All right, so she's going to do a perception check to see if she can't perceive something of use, of help that will help her, or something that she can avoid. And let's go ahead and see if she can't do this. So it is Page, which is easy difficulty, so she gets to draw 3, as well as 3 for her cerebral skill. So she gets to draw 6 cards, so she should hopefully be able to perceive whatever it is that the cards are telling us she's about to perceive. We got the 8 of Wands, 9 of Swords, 6 of Wands, and the 6 of Discs. All right. All right, so she spots something. What she spots, we're about to find out, because we will get an advantage on this next skill check. And let's see what it is. A Page of Swords. Okay, so it looks like, I'm going to assume this is another orc, probably a smaller one, another skirmisher that is done doing his dirty work at the next caravan ahead and has come to the aid of his orc comrades at the second cart in the caravan lineup. And this is going to be, he's flanking Annia. Now, Annia does get an extra boon against this challenge, an advantage, because she was able to spot it coming. So let's see. Her sword skill, her might, is level 1. The difficulty is easy, so she gets to draw 3 cards, +1 for her skill level, +1 for the boon, the advantage that she achieved in the last skill check. So let's go ahead and draw up 5 cards and see if we can't get a sword for Annia grappling with this orc. All right, and she gets the 10 of swords, so I'm going to say not only does she, you look at this card, it's a guy with a bunch of swords in his back, not only does she successfully meet this little skirmisher orc in combat, but she is able to use, she's got her tool belt because she's a gadgeteer, she's an artificer, and she has a tool, we'll say it's probably just like pliers or something, or maybe it's a hammer, and she's able to whack this orc across the face. And he's just a little guy, so he gets smashed in the face and sort of crumples and falls to the side. And so we've still got 3 more challenges to succeed at because we failed at this one. We only have 2 successes and we need a total of 5. All right, let's do this. I'm wondering, so there's still the 2 orcs up on the wagon. We know that Zed is currently engaged with the hunter orc, but he's at a disadvantage because of his failed skill check here. So let's go ahead and let's jump back over to him, and I think I'm just going to have him do a choice challenge here with his sword's skill of might, and really just try to finish off this orc. And we drew a Queen of Cups, or a Queen rather, it's a hard difficulty, plus we're doing a swords challenge, which he has level 3, so that's 4 cards, plus he gets a boon for having that long sword, so that's 5 cards he gets to draw to try to defeat this hunter orc. But he does get -1 for the disadvantage, so he gets to draw 4 cards. All right, let's go ahead. We get the 3 of Wands, the 5 of Discs, the 2 of Discs, all right, 1 more card here, and the 7 of Cups. This hunter is just too good. This is a very, very skilled orc, and we'll say that he's using like a spear or something, and he's got the height advantage, being up on the cart. So as much as Zed is trying to damage this creature, it's just not working. So we failed at another one. We'll go ahead and use the 3 of Wands to represent that failure. Flip this card upside down. And we're going to go ahead and say, good odds did Zed get injured in this very bold attack that he made. Good odds. Yes, okay. All right, so let's get all this shuffled back in. We're going to give Zed an injury. And let's draw a card to see what the nature of the injury is. Get a sense of what particular skill it's going to work against. Wands. Okay, so his precision and dexterity are going to be affected. So let's go ahead and write, we'll just write injured. And we'll put a negative to precision. All right. All right, so that's not good. All right. I don't think we can fail at another one. We have to succeed at every one of these next challenges to succeed at this scene. Now, failure, again, doesn't necessarily mean that everything is lost. All right, we've got the Knight of Discs, the Chevalier of Discs. So this is a Pentacles challenge, Discs challenge, Cerebral. And I think, let's take a look here. That's Mechanical, Deception, Perception, Intellect, and Preparation. I'm going to draw a Spark card. The 4 of Discs, we have this skeevy-looking individual breaking into a chest. I think what this is that Annia is going to try to do something to the cart. She's going to try to like remove the wheel or something, like damage the axle, to try to get these orcs off of their high ground and sort of level the playing field a little bit. So if she can succeed at this, potentially we can have an orc injured, but more likely we have the cart crumple over a little bit, or sorry, tip over a little bit. And yeah, let's go ahead. We got discs, which she is level 3 at. Mechanical, gadgeteer, so that's 4, and then 2 for the difficulty, so 6 cards. Let's go for a disc. We drew the 5 of Wands, the 2 of Swords, the 10 of Swords, the 7 of Wands, the 5 of Swords. All right, let's see. 3, 4, 5, 6. We got one more card left. And the 4 of Swords. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and use this card where it has this individual with a staff, just kind of like jabbing it down at something, because that's probably exactly what the orcs do when they see her trying to do this little maneuver. And this results in us failing the scene. Now we can continue on with some challenges in this particular segment of the scene, even though we can't ultimately win because we only have 2 slots left and we need to succeed at 3 more. But some successes could present an advantage, and I think it's worth at least taking a shot at this. Now, let's see. You know what? I'm going to have her try and bring the cart down again. That's what I'm going to do. Let's find the difficulty of it. Queen, so it's hard. So we get to draw 1 card for the difficulty, 3 cards for the ability, and a 5th card for the gadgeteer skill. She's just going to really try this time. You know, she was fended off by that orc previously. But let's go for it. 5 cards. We got to get a disc. We got the 10 of cups and the 6 of discs. All right, so at least going into the next scene, we know that Annia was able to break the wheel off of this cart and cause it to tumble down. We're going to fail this scene, and we're going to move on to the next one, which is Justice. All right, so let's get these cards all put away. And what happens next? Let's draw one of these cards. Page of Discs. All right. Discs represent mechanical, deception, perception, intellect, and preparation. I think what I'm going to do is actually turn this into a choice challenge, and we're going to have Zed press his advantage. The orcs are now on a level playing field. They are in the process of jumping off of this falling cart, so although they haven't fallen over, Zed is going to have an advantage against them, being that they're kind of on the back foot going off of this cart. So let's have him do a swords challenge, a might challenge, to do a melee attack against this hunter orc. And he's going to use his sword. So he's going to get 3 plus the sword, plus the difficulty of page, but it's bumped up to a knight for him because of his bad luck. So 2 cards for the difficulty, 3 cards for his skill, and 1 card for his sword. That's 6 cards. We want to get an 8 swords. And the first card we draw is the 6 of Swords. All right, so so Zed is able to swiftly, as this hunter is leaping off of this falling cart, he is able to swiftly slash the orc, removing his arm, one of his arms anyway, and so that's good. That's going to be helpful, right? So we still have 2 orcs. Potentially more coming from ahead in the caravan. We had that one skirmisher approach that Annia was able to whack across the face with her hammer. But now we have an injured orc and a skirmisher orc and potential other orcs. But for now, let's see what happens next. So we draw the King of Cups. Ooh. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask, can Annia do a stun attack now? Even odds. Yes, all right. So what I'm actually going to do is I am going to use up another one of our choice challenges to do an extremely difficult discs/pentacles challenge, so cerebral, Sorry, no, that's not what I want to do. I want to do the wands, rather, so that she can do her ranged attack with the stun ability. All right, so we've got an extremely difficult challenge, so 0 cards for the difficulty, 2 cards for precision, and a 3rd card for the stun spell. So she's going to go ahead and cast this, I think probably on the skirmisher, because Zed has just removed the arm of the hunter, so the hunter is pretty in bad shape. And Annia's mostly been interacting with this skirmisher. So as this skirmisher is itself leaping off of this cart, she's going to try and use that stun spell on him to freeze him as he's falling and hit the ground full force. And let's see if she can't do some damage here. So she needs to draw, again, it was 2 + 1, 3 cards. We need a wands in 3 cards. So ready? The 8 of discs and the 8 of wands. All right. And luckily, and look at that. There's a catapult on this card, launching off a flaming stone. So that's pretty fitting for the stun spell that Annia casts at this skirmisher orc, as he is leaping off of the cart, stunning him in midair, so that he ends up falling face first, all frozen, into the ground. Let's go ahead and just see what happens next. We got the Queen of Swords. I'm going to say this is Zed, again, fighting with this hunter orc, who is, again, a skilled fighter. We've seen how this hunter orc has a lot of finesse. And so even with just 1 arm, he's still a formidable foe. So it's a queen level challenge, which is hard. So we get to draw 1 card for the difficulty, 3 cards for the skill level for Zed, and then 1 card for the melee. And let's go ahead and draw our 5 cards. So we need a sword. So we drew a 9 of wands and a 2 of swords. All right. So we've turned this battle into our favor. Zed uses his awesome brawny strength to swing his long sword so hard it knocks the spear out of the single hand of the orc, and then brings the sword back around and slashes him across the gut, and he falls to his knees, and then he brings the sword down into the orc's shoulder, straight down into his chest, and blood is spurting out all over him, and he quivers, and as the sword is pulled from his body, falls back and crumples to the ground. And so the hunter orc is taken care of. The other orc, the skirmisher, is laying on the ground, still stunned. He's starting to get a little bit of movement. And I wonder if there are any other orcs approaching. I guess we'll see with what challenge comes next. Page of Swords, okay. So I'm going to say this is another skirmisher orc approaching from further ahead in the caravan. And we're going to just have to do a melee attack on him. And I think it's going to be Annia again, because Zed is still pulling the sword out of the hunter orc. She has level 1 in swords, and so that's 1 card plus 3 for the difficulty, so 4 cards to hopefully deal with this skirmisher. She's got her little hammer, and the first card that she draws is a success. So she swings the hammer at this other skirmisher, knocking his weapon out of his hand. Which gives Zed some opportunities here, right? Okay, so we got the Chevalier, the Knight of Wands. Ranged, persuasion, dexterity, wit, or resistance. Yeah, this is going to be a dexterity challenge for Annia. And so she gets a level 2 at that, so 2 cards. And then 2 cards for the difficulty, so 4 cards. She's now in a sort of grapple with this orc, and it's not a grapple of strength, it's not a challenge of strength in this case, it's a challenge of dexterity and being able to wrestle this guy and hopefully get a blow in on him with the hammer. So we're going to draw 4 cards. We need a wand. We got the 4 of Cups, the 4 of Swords, and the 7 of Wands. All right, so this lady with her spear or wand jabbing it downwards. That's going to be what's happening with Annia as she grapples with this orc who lost his weapon. It was whacked out of his hand, and when that happened, the orc lunged at Annia and started to grab her and grapple her, but she was able to bring the hammer around and free herself from his grip while simultaneously whacking him across the head as well, so he is knocked unconscious. And that we'll say that while that's happening, Zed comes over to the stunned orc skirmisher and stabs him dead, finishes him off. And with that, the onslaught of orcs that began during scene number 3, where we had to fight them on our cart. The next scene was fighting them up on the second cart, and the final scene was fighting them down on the ground level. We were able to defeat, Zed and Annia were able to defeat all of these orcs. And so I imagine this session is over now. We've completed the prerequisite, at least according to the standard default rules, 5 scenes successfully. We only failed at 1 scene at the end there. But we did it, folks. We were Zed and Annia defeat the orcs. Next time when we pick up with them, they're going to be probably just checking everybody and making sure everything is good at the other carts and seeing if there are any survivors and making sure the equipment's still in good shape. And yeah, but we will see what comes next time. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. This is my first time for a couple things. My first time using my Rhapsode system with an established setting. In this case, the Winter Eternal. And it is also my first time doing 2 characters at the same time. So I was just kind of winging it as far as how do we handle like initiative, how do we handle that kind of stuff. And again, this is a very narrative-driven system. It's all about the fiction. So I really just kind of went with when I could intuit from the fiction what should be going on, I did that. When I couldn't, I went ahead and used the Oracle to ask it what should be going on. And but yeah, I think that it all worked pretty well. Let me know what you guys think down there in the comments. I'm very curious to see what you think about this system. And yeah, like, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.